Are these shows just a little bit dull, a little bit boring and uninspiring, maybe?
What you mean is a bit desperate, is what
Maybe.
Maybe desperate.
Hello, I'm Matt Wilkinson, Royal Editor of the Sun newspaper, and welcome to our show Royal Exclusive. This week, delving into the royal news is best-selling author and royal expert. It's friend of the show, it's Ingrid Seward. Hello, Ingrid.
Hello.
Welcome back. You were here on a very early episode of this show, but now we've got a much nicer studio, so I thought we'd invite you back and show off.
Well, we're in a very glamorous studio today, so I'm feeling very honoured to be here.
Excellent. And you're looking very glamorous as well, so you're fitting in very well. Now, look, hot off the presses, as we sit down, we're finally told that Harry and Meghan's new television projects with Netflix, because obviously we've not seen them on part of this, £100 million Netflix deal. They haven't seemed to have done anything for such a long time. Harry's going to do a polo show. He's going to talk about he's going to appear in a show about polo, the event, the social scene. And Meghan's going to be doing a gardening and lifestyle cookery show. This is a massive change from what we've seen before with the couple on Netflix, where they had their documentary slagging off members of the royal family. This time they seem to be opening the doors to their life, or opening the doors to their new kind of post-royal life and what's going on in California. Is anyone going to watch it, do you think?
Well, I think Harry's polo could be really interesting. I don't know how long it would last.
It's a strange choice, though, isn't it? Because, as I say, previously it was all about Megxit. It was all about their bitter dispute with the royal family. That's how they signed this mega deal with Netflix. It's a royal sport, so it will still be a kind of glimpse into how the rich and famous and members of the royal family spend their time.
There's a big clique of people that are fans of polo, but it is quite elitist, I think. That's the problem. I think they might gather viewers in the first one because it'll be curiosity, but I don't know how it would run on. That would be up to how good Harry is.
Because we would expect, or we've spoken about this in the past, that previous members of the royal family, such as Edward, when he started his TV company, etc., people really just want members of the royal family, if they've got a TV show, to talk about the royal family. If he was to do a polo show, do you think that could be avoided? Would people still demand that he would speak about his family rather than just polo?
Well, if he's clever, he could drop a few remarks in like, "Oh, Pa used to do this," or "William used to tease me about that." If he's clever, he'd have to sprinkle it very lightly. I mean, he's quite good on television, Harry, when he's not grumpy. I think people will be really interested, and I think he could hold it together, because anyone's going to talk to him. Anyone that's interesting is going to talk to him. But it depends how it's scripted. It depends how good he is. There's a lot on his shoulders to make it work.
Now, there's two shows, obviously. Harry's polo show and Meghan's. Shall I read you how they describe Meghan's Netflix show? OK.
Do.
So they are saying that it's that this first series is curated by Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, will celebrate the joys of cooking and gardening, entertaining and friendship. The friendship thing stands out to me because she loses a lot of friends over.
She changes friends very quickly. Cooking, well, there's so many people doing cooking shows, but I think she's always talked about food, Meghan, from the very, very early days when she had the TIG, wasn't it, her website. I think I would be interested. It would be very American cooking, obviously, but I think gardening. I can't see her gardening, but maybe she'll be gardening in couture outfits. I don't know. I'm a little bit more sceptical about that because there's so many people doing that kind of thing. So definitely, to begin with, they're going to get massive viewership. Maybe that's all Netflix care about, is to get a great opening couple of shows, because people will be intrigued, and then if it drops off, it drops off.
Is this the progressive new role that we were told that they were leaving the royal family for? Archetypes has failed. her Spotify show. You know, that's been
Yes.
dropped. She put a show, or tried to get a show called Pearl on Netflix about an inspiring young woman, I think it was. That didn't materialise. Would we expect more from Meghan and Harry? Because they had so much ambition when they were in the royal family. They were, you know, Meghan was allegedly contacting her aides at 5 o'clock in the morning with new ideas and new ideas. Are these shows just a little bit dull, a little bit boring and uninspiring, maybe?
What you mean is a bit desperate, is what
Maybe.
Maybe desperate. I don't know. I think it would be wrong to criticise it before we've seen it. I am more sceptical about Meghan because I don't know that she knew anything about gardening, and we've got a lot of experts on gardening. Is this California gardening, English gardening? And as for her talking about friendship, well, I'm afraid that does make me feel a bit sort of sceptical, because she is really known for losing friends rather than gaining friends. So to hear her talking about friendships, I think that might go down a little strangely.
But it seems to be the avenue they're going to kind of market themselves as a kind of carefree Californian family living their best life. They're definitely changing tact from criticising the royal family. But I just wonder whether you think it will be as successful, say, as their big Netflix show they had last year.
Well, I think the big Netflix show they had last year, anyone that was interested tuned in to watch because we were so riveted, and it was a sort of insider's view. This is obviously, I don't think Meghan will be cooking in her own kitchen. I don't know what else they can do, Matt. As you said, they haven't actually had a great success so far, apart from, obviously, from Harry's book. You can't say that wasn't a success. Whatever you thought about it, it was a huge success. And I still think in my heart that that's probably where Meghan will make the most money, as if I'm sure it's in the pipeline. They've still got to produce books. I don't know I mean, a lot of members of the royal family have tried to work in television, as you said about Edward, and Peter Phillips has too. But he's not a working member of the royal family, never has been. I think Meghan is far enough removed from it for it possibly to work. She'll get a lot of criticism. Everything she does will be criticised. But as long as people remain interested, what does that matter?
I'm sure we'll be tuning in.
I think we will be.
Unfortunately. So, big royal event this week. I'm not talking about your book launch, which was a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
Of course.
But it was the King and Queen's 19th wedding anniversary. Which is quite remarkable, really, when you think about it. It was a low-key event. I think they were at home, went up to Balmoral later in the week. But what's been the success? What's the secret of the success between King and Queen for having such what seems to be like a very successful marriage?
Just briefly, I think the first thing that would come into my head would be laughter. I mean, Charles used to look so miserable when he was married to the gorgeous Diana. How could a man look so miserable married to someone so beautiful and lovely? But he was obviously very unhappy. He just looks so happy around Queen Camilla. And you can tell that she's sort of giving him a backbone. She is really a glass half full, and he is a glass half empty, and she said that. And she makes him laugh. Clarence House is a really happy place, full of laughter, a little bit chaotic. I think that they really have a laugh. And I think I know that being royal really separates you from the rest of the world. It's a very lonely place to be. And if you have someone you're not getting on with, it's even more difficult. But Camilla makes Charles laugh. And also, if you think right back, she's so supportive of him. And she praises him all the time. Darling, you're wonderful, your speech was wonderful. And he needs that because in his youth he never had that. So and in his dotage, I suppose you could say, he's really being praised, and you can see how happy he is when he's meeting the crowds. I never seen Charles look so joyous as he was over the Easter weekend, shaking hands, smiling, and every sort of walkabout he's done since he became king, he's been he looks a really happy man, despite the fact that he's obviously not, his health isn't that great at the moment.
You knew Princess Diana You used to go to Kensington Palace, obviously, to have cups of tea and have a chat with her. You obviously have a lot of affection for Diana. But why do you think this marriage, you know, say 19 years is a great achievement? Why do you think this has lasted so much longer or been more successful than his marriage to Diana?
Well, the thing that with Charles and Diana's marriage is that they were at loggerheads with each other and they were both vying for top spot. Certainly in the beginning, Charles used to get very, I mean, ask Arthur Edwards from The Sun. He was there right from the beginning. Charles used to get very jealous. He probably wouldn't use that word, but envious of the fact that everybody wanted to see his wife. And he was like an also-ran. And I think that a lot of their marriage was like that. And Diana it was a mismatch. She was looking for something that wasn't there in him. And even after they had William and Harry, she said that they had a real brief period of happiness before she had Harry. And then, and also she had this sort of spectre of Camilla in her head the whole time, and she was obsessed with it. And that yet, when I last spoke to her, shortly before her death, I was very brave. Anyhow, I brought the subject of Camilla up, and she said, "Oh, it wasn't Camilla that ruined our marriage." And I thought, what? I don't believe what I'm hearing. She said, "Oh, it wasn't Camilla. It was the people around my husband." And I thought, it wasn't Camilla. And you've been complaining about Camilla all these years. But she changed tack and decided that it was the environment in which keeping a royal marriage together, you've got to be very strong and probably far more mature than she was.
The interest of talking about keeping the relationship strong, while they've gone up to Balmoral or they've gone up to Burke Hall for a week or so to kind of relax, Camilla's definitely stepped up. And she's now doing, she's now the Prince Philip role. You know, she's now the strength and stay of the king. And she's, when the late Queen was unwell, Prince Charles, as he was then, would step in and be the kind of leader of the royal family. But now it's Camilla is the person that stands in for the king. What do you think about that? Do you think that's you glad that Camilla is now the kind of the main focal point of the royal family when the king's not there? She
led them into King Constantine's memorial service because obviously King Charles was unable to go to that because the doctor said you've got to keep away from people. But it was different on Easter Sunday, and I think people really respect Camilla because she was 50 when she got into this family. She's now 76, and it's unless you were born to it, it's quite hard. And they have huge. The Windsors have massive energy. Charles, as a young man, used to run everywhere, up and down the corridors. Prince Philip used to run everywhere and jump down all those staircases because they were in such big buildings to get there quicker. Camilla doesn't have that kind of energy, and I think it really takes it out of her. And I think people respect her for what she's done.
Do we know? I was thinking about the Crown. Do you remember the pet names they have for each other?
Charles and Camilla?
Yeah. Well, they were called Fred and Gladys.
Oh, that was that was years ago. Yeah. When people have nicknames, they usually change, don't they? Different phases. I mean, we know that Harry is H, and we know that Meghan is Meg, but there could be lots of other things. And I can't remember what Prince William was. Big Willie, I think, according to the News of the World. I think that's. And Kate was Babykins. Yeah. But people change the nicknames over time. So I don't know what Charles and Camilla call each other now. Darling, I think.
I think so. I mean, it's still a really strong relationship. So.
And here Charles says it's really nice when he says, "my beloved wife," as he used to say with the Queen, "my beloved mother."
Absolutely. Should we take a little romp through the royal relationships, good or bad, that are happening at the moment? William and Catherine. We haven't seen them for a while, justifiably, because Catherine, obviously, recovering from cancer. The last couple of months have been incredibly stressful for the Prince and Princess of Wales. They have a very strong couple. How do you think they will be coping right now?
I think what the Prince and Princess of Wales are doing right now is just concentrating on their family life. The children go back to school next week. We probably will see Kate driving them to school, possibly. I think that people are just waiting to see her again. But I think when you see William and Kate together, they have a great relationship. They're quite touchy-feely, but not over touchy-feely like Meghan and Harry are. They don't cling to each other, but occasionally they do. And they laugh, again, I think it's laughter. They laugh together a lot. And I think that William is very, very supportive of his wife. And I know that Carol Middleton has said that to friends. He is so supportive of my daughter. And she's very sort of proud of him. So, you know, it's that mutual support they have with each other.
Are you surprised that there was a YouGov poll, I think, this week, that despite all the furore around the Mother's Day photograph, that the Prince and Princess of Wales are still the two most popular members of the royal family? I mean, they're not without their crises. Remember, a couple of years ago, the Caribbean tour, you know, which I was on, was an absolute PR disaster. They're not without their problems. What is it about their, you know, you talk about them being warm and they are very, you know, affectionate to each other in private and public. What is it about their relationship that really strikes a chord with the public?
I think it's the warmth between them and the warmth that they you know, it's not fake. It's when they give out warmth. And of course, Kate is a photographer's dream. She's so beautiful. And William's a very good-looking young man. And I think that it's natural. It's not. You see, with Meghan, I feel she's got one expression, the big grin, and I feel that's all, and that doesn't feel natural. But with Kate and William, they've got all. It's just a warmth they have, and it sort of exudes to everybody around them, which is what the magic that Diana had. However nervous Diana was about meeting people or going out on her own, the minute she was out there, she exuded this warmth and friendliness, and that's what Kate and William do.
Now, a less functional or a more dysfunctional royal relationship is Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. Obviously, they married in the 80s, divorced, now living together and basically, you know, supporting each other through thick and thin. Did you ever have much dealings personally with Andrew and Sarah?
I had a lot of dealings with Sarah because I wrote a book about her. And I knew Sarah before she became the Duchess of York. She's very loyal. She's extremely loyal to Andrew. And I do think she found, certainly in the early years of her marriage, she found this arrogance that he has, you know, don't you know who I am? Entitlement. I think she found that very difficult. She loved him, but I think she found that side of it difficult because she's another warm, friendly person, probably too friendly sometimes. But she's remained very loyal. I feel, and I don't know this, that she must have talked to the Queen, and the Queen must have said, "Please look after Andrew for me." Yeah, and I absolutely feel that, and that's what she's going to do. I don't think she'll leave him. I don't think they'll get married again. And I think she is, you know, really trying to move on and make money and work in the area that she's interested in, which is film and television. She hasn't been hugely successful, but she's been pretty successful. She's made a lot of money out of her books. But she's really, you know, we all look at her as the sort of money earner. But I think that's what she wants to do, and she can quite happily work from Royal Lodge. It's not a bad place to live. Probably rent-free. The only thing you've got to do is look after her husband, well, her ex-husband. I mean, it's an interesting relationship.
It is. Do you think perhaps you mentioned about loyal? Would it be wrong for me to say that she's too loyal? After everything that's happened with Epstein and everything that's happened with
she's not going to walk out on him. Remember, he supported her when she was really in trouble over all the various scandals and things she's been involved in. He supported her, so it wouldn't look too good if she kind of walked out on him, and she wouldn't. She just wouldn't. I don't think she's too loyal. I think it's just a really lovely character trait.
Over the years, I've had quite a few tips from people suggesting that they might remarry. Earlier, you would rule that out.
I can't see the point of them remarrying, unless it's for tax reasons. I mean, I really don't see the point. I think if something works the way it is, don't muck with it. I mean, maybe their daughters would like them to remarry. I don't know, but I think that probably Fergie is better off being her own person. She's still Sarah, Duchess of York. She doesn't need the HRH. Everybody knows who she is. They either like her or they don't. And I don't see that there's anything that she would make life better for either of them if they got remarried.
So when you used to speak to her, how would she talk much about Andrew? Would she talk about what kind of guy he was? Or?
Yeah, she did. I mean, I used to know her very well. Yes, she did talk about him. I think, well, of course, he hasn't got into all this trouble then. I think she's very protective of him now because, you know, he needs protecting. But I think she always says, I don't want to talk about that. And quite rightly so. What can she say? She can only make it worse by stirring things up. I think she's absolutely right to keep her mouth shut about it.
Fine. Now, one couple that doesn't get talked about as much as the others we've discussed today, and we had some comments on YouTube last week saying, well, Edward and Sophie, Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, are a very successful partnership. It's 25 years this year they'll be celebrating their anniversary. Why is that marriage succeeded whereas others have ended in divorce? What is it about Edward and Sophie and their relationship? Because they're popular, but we don't see them very much.
Well, I think they've become more popular recently because we've seen much more of them. Sophie was always, you know, a wonderful photograph, beautiful, lovely face and, you know, doing worthy things. And she's given quite a lot of interviews and she seems such a very special lady. And I met her when she first appeared on the scene and she was always incredibly friendly. It was difficult for her because, you know, there are a lot of people saying, well, you know, she's very ordinary. Her father's a car salesman, which wasn't true. And her mother takes in typing or something. It was quite cruel. But it wasn't true. Her father's a lovely, lovely person. And I just think that they've kind of worked it through. And Sophie's so nice about Edward. She said some lovely things the other day about him. And they have their own lives, but they come together. I mean, I know they're both very busy, but they always try and have one of them at home when the other one is travelling.
They were obviously at the Entente Cordiale, the 120 years at Buckingham Palace, where we had French troops at Buckingham Palace, which raised a few eyebrows. But, you know, we're living in peace now with France, and it's absolutely fantastic. But there is such a large amount of the population that want to see more of Edward and Sophie. Well,
I think Edward and Sophie would be absolutely delighted to be more high profile. Well, they are definitely more high profile now. They're still a sort of youngish couple who are very good, and they, you know, I think Edward's got much warmer. I mean, he could be a bit sort of dull and cold in public, and didn't always want to shake hands. But now he seems to be much warmer. I think it's because he's getting enthusiasm from the crowd that he's talking to.
And there's space for them now. Duke and Duchess of Sussex aren't there.
Yeah,
you know, there's room for a couple to, you know,
when Harry and Meghan were around, there was two really high-profile couples and the King, or it was Prince of Wales then, and no one else really got a look at. There wasn't room for them then. When it was the Queen, the Prince of Wales, and then the Prince of Wales's children, and Edward and Sophie never really got a look in. They did plenty of things, but no one was that interested. Now they're higher profile, they're more visible, and they're doing more.
Talking of Harry and Meghan, again, back to the beginning, Duke and Duchess of Sussex, how do you see this marriage playing out? Because obviously there was a huge amount of stress when they moved to America, and there was constant, you know, rumours that maybe it might not work out, but they're still going strong. You know, we spoke earlier about they've still got plans that they're both working on for new Netflix shows, so they've still got ideas. Are you surprised that the naysayers have been proved wrong, that the marriage still is, they still are together and they still are living in California? And how do you see this marriage playing out? Will we have a 25th wedding anniversary or a 19th wedding anniversary as we do with the King and Queen with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex?
I really don't know that. But I mean, everyone said, oh, this marriage isn't going to last. You're right, they did. But you know, Matt, you know a little bit about this because you've been out in California. I think, my opinion, and I think Harry has got an obsessive love for Meghan. And I don't think he would ever leave her. And you know, she's in control. And as long as she remains in control, I think she's happy. So I think the marriage is probably, I think they're very happy. And who wouldn't be happy living in that gorgeous house? As that, you know, they've got 2 lovely children. They don't, I mean, I know they're not popular in this country, but does that really worry them? I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Well, no, you're right. I did go to California last summer because there was lots of reports and lots of rumours that you know there was trouble in paradise. So there was lots of online comments, lots of people on Twitter and stuff like that. So we did look into it, and all we could fathom out was that there were just lots of claims. So it was always the case with rumours, where you hear rumours, but once you actually dig into it, there didn't seem to be any real kind of key source that could say Harry was. There's always rumours that Harry was staying in a hotel here.
Yes, that was very strange. Yeah.
But it really did snowball, and a lot of people were talking about it. So I did pop out and have a look, and I couldn't really find any evidence of that. And it was pointed out that they have a huge sprawling mansion with guest houses. So if they did want to live apart, they could just live apart on the house. But I found no evidence of them living apart. What I was told was that, just like any kind of normal marriage, they have arguments or disagreements about how to bring up the children. Meghan wants the children to have more of a kind of life in California. Wants them to be more visible, whereas Prince Harry, it's what I was told, was more worried about them getting photographed. Doesn't want them to be taken pictures by the paparazzi.
Harry's really paranoid about that, isn't he? But of course, the sad thing is that they are not getting to know their cousins or their grandfather. And I think that's very sad. And I don't know what will happen. But you see, I think that when Archie is older, he's going to want to know his cousins, and they're certainly going to want to know him because he's going to be very glamorous, a really cool Californian kid. And they're desperately going to want to know them, and they're going to want to go there and see them. So anything could happen.
Do you think, just thinking, we've got at the end of May, I think we've got the Invictus ceremony at St Paul's. So it's a 10-year anniversary. So I've asked, will the Duke and Duchess of Sussex come? And they haven't finalised their plans yet. Do you think Harry and Meghan will attend? They could bring their children. That would be quite a momentous occasion. I mean, they bring their children the first time since Platinum Jubilee, get to meet the King and stuff like that. Do you think people will welcome them to come for this 10-year anniversary of Invictus?
I think they desperately want Harry there. And of course, people are fascinated. We haven't seen the children. Well, and certainly over here, we haven't seen I think people would be absolutely fascinated. And certainly it would be nice for King Charles to see them. But apparently, Harry won't come here unless he's given an absolute guarantee that he's going to have royal security, not just Metropolitan Police security, royal security, and that his business with the Home Office is going to be sorted out. But you can't make demands on His Majesty's government like that. So I don't know what will happen. I mean, maybe that's another rumour.
Another rumour.
But it makes sort of sense, doesn't it?
One thing that isn't a rumour, and, you know, if we're talking about royal relationships and marriages, one thing that could potentially split people up is Harry's visa row. Have you been able to see this week there was a think tank that's managed to persuade the US government to show a judge Prince Harry's visa application. Now, obviously, the argument here is that to get a US visa, you have to confess about your drug taking, and then you will be refused a US visa if you've taken lots of drugs. And he's obviously in spare. He is detailed in great detail and interviews as well about his, taking psychedelic drugs, cocaine, smoking cannabis, a long period of his life. This could end up with Donald Trump looking at this visa application, or and wondering whether Harry should be allowed into the United States. This could potentially blow up in Duke and Duchess of Sussex's face if there is a visa problem.
Well, you're one step ahead of me, Matt, as you always are, of course, and should be. I didn't know that had just come. I mean, I read it obviously earlier on, but I didn't know that had just come up again. But if Trump doesn't get in, what can Trump do? I think it's. I don't know. I mean, I know about the drugs and the American visa, But Harry's lawyer could say, and I think has said, well, you know, you don't believe everything you read in books. He was, you know, he can blame it. He could blame it on his ghostwriter. There's going to be lots of interesting ways to see if he can get out of all that drug business. But maybe he can't. I mean, he could be deported.
He could be deported.
He could be deported, but who would want to be responsible for doing that? I don't know. It's a very interesting case.
Well, I say Donald Trump could win at the end. He could win he could become president, and he's already voiced his dislike of Prince Harry.
Yes, I don't think it would be good for Harry and Meghan at all if Trump became president. But I mean, he's not going to want to injure the royal family, is he? Really? I mean, I think he's. Well, we know he's a lot of mouth and not always much action.
Well, thanks very much, Ingrid. It's a pleasure having you on again. Hopefully you can come back for a third time on our show. That's all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed our romp through the good and the bad of the royal family relationships. And if you like this content and you enjoyed it, then please click below, subscribe for all the royal news. Thank you for watching.